Poker's legendary champions, next generation stars, and tireless ambassadors of the game, sharing their wisdom and guiding your journey to high achievement on the green felt. This is Tactical Tuesday on Chasing Poker Greatness with your hosts, Brad Wilson and John Chai.
Welcome, my friend, to another episode of the Chasing Poker Greatness podcast. As always, this is your host, the founder of ChasingPokerGreatness.com, Coach Brad Wilson, and I'm once again joined by my Tactical Tuesday co-host, John. What are you doing, sir? How's it going?
Not much. Just excited to look at these two hands. We got a theme that apparently we haven't covered yet, or covered very often in our Tactical Tuesday journey, and that's bluff catching on the river. I'm a little surprised that was one of our gaps, given that I feel like I do it a lot.
It's also one of the areas that you struggle with mightily. Just, I think biologically, bluff catching is something that is difficult for you for whatever reason. Bluffing and value betting, those two, much more intuitive. Bluff catching, much more unnatural for you.
Yeah. I went through a phase recently where I just jammed all my bluff catchers on the river instead of bluff catching with them. And
how'd it go?
Turned out to be worse than just bluff catching. So I've toned it down.
Yeah. He tried to avoid the pain, but he could not. It's maybe you just don't like, calling on the river when you need to win more than 30% of the time. And you know that you're going to lose 60% of the time. You can't handle losing more often than you win.
Yeah, that could be it. Anyways, we'll see how I do.
How was your July 4th? We took a week off.
Oh,
we paused Tactical Tuesday. All good?
Yeah, I had a good July 4th. I had a bunch of my fiance's family over to our new house, and we watched the fireworks on the strip and just had a good weekend at the pool and ate good food and did an escape room. Lots of fun stuff. What about you? You went to Kansas City?
I did. We spent time with family. I didn't know this, but apparently in Missouri, they spend more money on fireworks than any other state.
Really?
And yes.
Wow.
And that's legitimate. All weekend long, there were fireworks from 5 p.m. until midnight in the neighborhoods around us. It was just nonstop fireworks. So
that's nuts. I can't believe it's I don't know. I would have expected it to be California or Texas or something.
A lot of things clicked in place. My wife and I's anniversary is on July 4th, and now it all makes sense to me. I see. Fireworks are a really big deal for people in Missouri. It finally clicked. So yeah, good time with family, no poker stuff, and now excited to get back. Tactical Tuesday, breaking down hands, raising wolves, just all the things that I do all the time.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So bluff catching, here you have tens. Actually, I don't think we looked at this specific hand in advance. So
yeah, we didn't.
I'm in the dark here. You can break down the action for the podcast listener.
Yep.
I'm skipping ahead on YouTube.
Action folds to the button. Who's a reg? We're 100 big blinds effective. He opens $25. I 3-bet to $110. He calls. Everything looking pretty normal pre-flop. I think this flop is really where this flop decision is really where the rest of the hand is what the rest of the hand hinges on. I started out with check. I think I could start out with bet. Don't know if you have a preference for betting or checking.
I mean, as you said, you can do either one. If you did bet, what size would you choose?
Probably a big size, half pot. I know half pot's not huge, but that would probably be close to my bigger size, and my small size would be a third when I'm c-betting out of position in 3-bet pot. So I probably would go half here and pick something over pairs and draws, hard draws or backdoor club type hands. That being said, I do think tens is one of the hands that does benefit from betting big. I think one of the more comfortable traps on this flop, it would be a hand like aces that doesn't need to worry about overcards peeling on the turn in the river. tens can still get value from like sixes, sevens, eights, nines, 5x, hands like 6-7, hearts themselves, and does benefit a little bit more from not letting like, queen jack or king queen just see a free turn and river potentially.
Yeah. So some equity denial. And I think villains can call fairly wide, even facing a half. Like you don't have a club, which would be a lot of their continuing range. But what's the plan if you check and villain bets, as they do, right?
Yeah. So I check villain bets third pot $70 into 225. Don't think the sizing is shocking. I think this is roughly the size that I would expect if I did see a flop float from the imposition player. I think I should have check raised my overpairs and flush draws in this spot. I think that would be like the standard thing to do, is just, if you are doing something like range check on these boards, have a pretty nice, it's pretty easy to find a check raise range with overpairs and and hearts and stuff like that. So I think that's what I would normally do. I do remember that in this case, that this villain had shown like a tendency to be really aggressive and just like barrel off in spots. I don't remember if they were specifically spots where like he was starting out with a flop float and just tripling off, thinking that I'm capped. I think it was a spot where he was like the pre-flop 3-better and just like went bet in like a single raise pot or a 3-bet pot. Not that that's like enough to just say like, oh, I'm gonna let him barrel off and just check call and like hope for good runouts with my pocket tens. I still think that check raising might be the better option here. But I did just check call flop. And again, I think that sort of sets the tone for the rest of the hand, where I'm just really in just bluff catching mode with tens and hoping that he just barrels really inappropriately with, just every bluff that he has in this spot.
Yeah, I think it's like check raising makes the hand much easier to play. I think check calling. So basically through check calling, you're targeting the bluff region of their range. So like
the zero equity bluff region. Cause like I would expect hearts to like call a check raise.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're not gonna have zero equity, right? Like as you said, even queen jack of spades has, 25% equity or so. So basically like in general, I would think that you're going to call this bet on the flop. The turn is just going to be quite polarized. Their hands like sixes, sevens, eights, nines. They're not going to bet the turn. So like you miss a bet versus their smaller overpairs. Versus their like nut flush draws, they're probably not betting the turn. I would expect them to like bet the turn maybe with like king queen of hearts or queen jack of hearts, those type of hands. And then, their backdoor clubs, that brick, they're just kind of like 8-9 suiteds that could be just airball potential. And yeah, I guess like if you start by check calling the flop, like on blank turns, it's pretty easy to just call and continue, since they need to have some like, ace 4 suiteds, pocket fives, like that's the value region of the range. Maybe aces if they slow play those pre. And there's just very few combos that they have of those, and way more potential combos of like just hands that are trying to take aggressive actions.
Right. I do think there are some zero equity hands, like a hand like 8-9.
Yeah.
I know 7-8 has a gut shot, but still that's pretty
That's not zero equity either, John.
Yeah, that's true.
They got like a quarter, 25%. Hard to have a zero equity hand. 9-10. I guess that's kind of the one. 9-10 of spades. It's tough.
Yeah.
So Trey on the turn.
So I just want to talk about the flop decision, like real quick again, and just kind of like, do you agree that like once I check call this flop bet, I'm kind of committed to the bluff catching line and likely not taking any aggressive actions unless the turn gets checked through and maybe I value bet the river?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that like when villain bets a turn, you're polarized, you've got a bluff catcher, no real reason to just jam into the nuts and let their, blank cards off the hook. So like, yeah, once you start this path, this is the path that you're on.
Yep. Okay.
So they bet a third. You do decide to check call. Now there's 366 in the pot. The flop was 4-4-5, 2 hearts. Turn is the tray of diamonds. There's 8-14 left. As a reminder, John has pocket tens, so 10 of spades, 10 of hearts for the podcast listener. If I haven't said the hands or the board at this point, I apologize. You have an overpair, turns a tray of diamonds. It connects with ace deuce, connects with 6-7 suited. You opt to check, and villain bets 70%ish.
Yeah.
Or actually 60%ish. They
yeah.
bet 201 into 366, leaving themselves 613 behind. So if you call, there's going to be 780 in the pot and 613 back.
Yep.
We've pretty much laid the blueprint, right?
Yeah, we talked about it on the flop. What our plan for the rest of the hand is going to be.
So now it's just
isn't going to change anything.
Yeah. I think now it's just like pull the trigger, right? Like I think that's an important thing for the listener to internalize, is like, it's easy to change plans midstream because of one reason or another, but like, you had your plan on the flop. Now it's just a matter of executing that plan without spazzing out and doing something ridiculous. So you check call. There's 768 in the pot. Villain has 613. River is the queen of clubs. So final board is flop was 4-4-5, 2 hearts, turn tray of diamonds. River, queen of clubs. Queen of clubs is a pretty nice card, I think, for us on the river, because they're, it reduces their backdoor clubs that may have stabbed the flop. Like king, queen of clubs, queen, jack of clubs, queen, 10 of clubs that maybe stab the flop and maybe stab the turn. They jam, which is totally expected. And I guess it would be a pretty sad bluff catching episode if you just folded the river, right? So you call in. They have the 8-9 of hearts. There you go.
So you actually had one of those equity driven bluffs that I think his hand makes perfect sense to play the way that he did.
Yeah. So we don't learn much of anything about whether or not they're over bluffing here, because they just have a totally appropriate hand. That makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I mean, if you check raise the flop, you probably get stacks anyway. Maybe
he just jams over the check raise. I was worried that, like, I don't know, one thing I was thinking about was like, oh, if I check raise this flop, maybe 8-9 of hearts just calls and then folds versus the turn jam.
It's possible. But either way, we got the money. And now we're going to move on to bluff catch attempt number 2. And I think number two is a good way to describe this next hand coming up.
Are you a lone wolf searching for the ultimate pack? The CPG Wolf program is a close-knit brotherhood hell-bent on one thing only: chasing poker greatness. Powered by bleeding-edge wolf strats and led by Coach Brad and his lieutenants, CPG Wolves are systematically prepared for almost any spot they'll encounter on the green felt. If you want to plug into an elite team and have a step-by-step game plan to realize your full poker potential, you can apply at cpgwolves.com. Space is limited, and the pack is only as strong as its weakest member. So only the hungriest, grittiest, and most driven will be accepted into the program. Applications are open at cpgwolves.com.
All right. Welcome back from the number 2 break. We've got another hand locked and loaded. This one is looks to be have a little more depth than the previous hand. You've got 2,600 in front of you, playing 510 online, and the villain in question lives under the gun, who is starting with about 183 big blinds approximately. So to start out the action, they open min from under the gun. You 3-bet to 100 with queens. They 4-bet to 270.
All right, I'm already like pissing my pants right now.
Yep. we actually, so this was the hand we wanted to talk about more than hand number one. And we tried to find a comparable hand in your database, and we just came up blank of like facing a 4-bet out of position at like close to 200 bigs deep. Because it's quite rare, and I guess that's the reason why you're pooping your pants, right? Like at this depth, villain's gonna have, they're gonna struggle to have enough hands to 4-bet with after opening under the gun, facing a 3-bet from the big blind, already a very tight formation, and now opening the action in position. It's just a thing. They don't have much incentive to do it. And right. So like they need to have some bluffs, right? Like maybe some lower equity hands that aren't good enough to call with, like maybe an ace 10 off, something like that is what really needs to be in there. And
I think the solver bluffs in this spot, just looking at the bunker ranges, are supposed to be like ace 3 suited, slivers of like ace 4, ace 5 suited, a little bit of ace 10 suited. That's about it.
Yeah, I guess I would prefer the suited hands at this depth over the offsuit hands. Interestingly, all of those hands include a very specific card, and that will play a role in the rest of this hand. So you opt to call, even though you've already pooped your pants.
You know what I'm hoping for on this flop? I'm hoping that I just get to like check fold the flop somehow.
No, ace, king, deuce.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank God. Just get me out. Just get me out of here.
Get me out of here. Get me out of here. You talked about escape rooms before. This is like your own personal escape room that you're looking to get out of. The flop does you no favors. The flop is ace, queen, 7 with the ace, queen of diamonds. So you flop middle set. There's 545 in the pot. SPR is 3. You check, and villain bets like a quarter.
I'm like, I'm okay here. I'm like, you know what? He could have ace king. Like maybe he has like some ace 5 suited or like some ace x suited, like the deuce 3 4s that we mentioned that just see about this flop small. Probably see about this size with range. Like I'm still, I have a set. Like this is we're feeling better than pre-flop.
Yeah, we're feeling better. We can stay in this escape room just a little bit longer. Turn is the jack of hearts, and villain bets little more than half pot.
So the board is ace queen 7 jack, and villain bets 444 or 445 into 837, leaving him 975 behind. If I call this, he'll have a little bit over half pot left on the river. I'm back to pooping my pants.
Let me out of here. I don't like it anymore. I hate this.
I don't think villain ever bets any of his one pair ace X on the turn anymore. Definitely not for this size. I don't think he bets ace king. Doubt he ever bets like ace deuce 3 4 unless it's like some fancy bluff that is pretty fancy.
Super fancy.
I think I should have folded here, which feels a little crazy, folding middle set in a 4-bet pot. But
yeah, the village was crying for hero folds, and you had a prime hero fold opportunity to sate their appetite.
I just don't know if I'd be able to live. I don't think I'd show this hand to anybody, even if I correctly folded the turn. I would just be like, I can't let the world know that I fold sets in 4-bet pots.
I think that's a backwards way of thinking about it, to be honest. And I think it's, this is like a learning opportunity, in my opinion, of like the fact that other people might make fun of you for making a play that's above the rim is inconsequential, because the only way to do things that other people don't do is just to do them, like, and say, whatever, I don't care. I think this is a fold, therefore I fold, right? I think it's very safe not folding.
Yeah. Like no one's going to make fun of you for stacking off with a set.
Exactly. But you risk, not only do you risk this 1400, which I think the reality is the risk of being called dumb would hurt you more than losing the 1500. Like if me or Shu are just like, wow, you're an idiot. Why did you do this?
Like, wow, I'd have paid 1400 to not hear that.
Yeah. And definitely if they had like some random hand here, you would be,
oh my God,
you might never get out of bed. So there's always like that pain, I think, is actually more than the pain of just paying off in a set over set type situation.
Yeah. At least you can just shrug and be like, well, what a cooler, and like move on with your life.
Exactly. But it takes real cojones to actually pull the trigger here and say, like, you know what? I think this is the right thing to do, and I'm going to do it, and whatever happens, happens. And I know this is going to like inflate your ego some, but you have the potential as a poker player to do things like this and get away with it because you hand read exceptionally well. Your energy reads are on point.
It's gotta be really hard to inflate my ego this hand.
Yeah, well, you go the safe route. You go the safe route. Spoiler alert. It's a bluff catching episode. It's not a hero fold episode. John is not going to fold. But I mean, when you know that something is up and like they have one combo of hands, in your opinion, or three combos in this specific situation, you know, you gotta chunk it. I mean, kings is like the hand, right? I think kings is the one hand that's like, do they turn kings into a bluff trying to fold out what is most likely a set or top two? Like, there's just, I can't imagine kings betting the turn. Like, you'd have to be some kind of crazy person. If somebody had kings here, you should just tip your hat to them. Like, well done, sir.
Yeah, no one ever has kings here.
Right. So like, it's the bluffs are what's really difficult to find. And as a reminder to the podcast listener, the board is ace, queen, jack, 7. And, you know, when we said like those sliver of ace X's come into play, well, ace 5 and ace 4 and ace 10 are not betting the turn. And correct. So it's really hard to find the bluffs.
Yeah.
So you don't jam. So we got that going for us, right? You
guys should have just jammed here. I don't know. You know, maybe just hope that he has like the weird king 5 of diamonds that I don't know. Sure. If it's not clear that I'm already like discombobulated.
Yeah, you're like the person that like that's like terrified of heights and stands near the rail and like, well, I should just jump. Let's get it over with. I can't live with this anxiety of being afraid.
I won't be scared anymore. At least I'll just be dead.
Like, I just need that sense of relief. Calling you, like you definitely just have to call if you're going to continue. And you check the river. River's a deuce of clubs, so no reprieve of anything. No 4-liner, no flush completer. No superhero card to save you on the river. You check. There's 1,700 in the pot. Villain jams 975. Did you at least tank on the river? Or
No, I tanked on the turn. Like the turn was like where I was really like, okay, if I call this, like I'm probably not folding pretty much any river, or like maybe I'll get the 10 of diamonds or the king of diamonds, and like it'll just go check on the river, please.
Yeah, the queen of hearts.
Like
please, queen of hearts. Just
no, I don't even get that greedy. I just want the check.
Which is funny, right? Like you've already made the commitment on the turn. Like, well, this is my fate. Villain jams the river, which even if they were doing something fancy on the turn, right? With an ace 4, ace 5, or I mean, if fancy's one word for it, I think I would use a different adjective. Like, they're not going to jam the river. I can't imagine. So I do think the river is another data point.
Oh, they're not going to bet the turn. So it's like, what is the river actually a data point?
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect those hands to bet the turn ever. So I don't know. I mean, I really wish I found the fold on the turn. Like it's one of those rare times where like, I rarely make or even have like the inclination to make like a big fold like this, but on the turn, this was like one of the few times in my life where I was like, wow, like,
doesn't that mean something to you though? If you rarely want to make a hero fold, and this is one of the moments where you thought you could, like, shouldn't that be an indicator that like, oh, this situation is quite unique?
Gotta be consistent.
All right.
We talk about this in Wolves all the time, playing consistently.
Yeah, I just talked about it in the first hand of having a plan and being consistent about it. Sometimes in this world, people will take one specific action with only one specific hand, and that's just the way it is.
I think anybody in the audience is curious about what Under the Gun has at this point.
I think, yeah, that would be like the perfect way to end the episode, right? You just call the river and you win. Well, you do call the river. You do not win. They do have a set of aces, which, yeah, it smelled like aces. It walked like aces. It was just aces.
Yep.
But at least you still have your pride. And I guess from there, you still have your pride and self-belief and confidence. But to close out the episode, I just want to say, like, you're capable of doing things that I think few people are capable of, and just fucking do it, man. And like, honestly, the thing that gets judgment from my side is when you're capable of doing something and you just don't. Yeah. That to me is like,
you should do something kind of off script and you still don't do it.
Yeah. I think like it's just it's one of those soul read type situations where like a soul read is just recognizing in real time that villain only has one specific hand in their range that they would play in this exact way, right? That's the definition of a soul read. And sometimes that's things just set themselves up in a very perfect way where,
yeah, you can make those reads. And when you get those opportunities where things are set up perfectly, and
I've played hands and asked myself the question on the river, what bluffs do I have? And the answer is shit. Hardly any. It's really hard to find them, and I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, all right. We'll call this episode of Tactical Tuesday. Good stuff. Maybe one of these days we'll have a Hero Fold episode, but it, maybe 2030 or 2040.
It'll be a different Tactical Tuesday co-host. It won't be me. I'm just going to keep calling the river every time.
One day we'll splice together all these would-be Hero Folds for Max Payne effect.
Yeah, I'd like to see the graph for those hands. It's like minus 300,000 big blinds.
All right, man. Well, good stuff as always. Good being back at it. That's all I got for this week's episode of Tactical Tuesday.
See you next week.
Thanks for listening to Chasing Poker Greatness. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. Go to chasingpokergreatness.com to get the newsletter, join the Greatness Village community, book a coaching session, or dive into the latest data-driven poker courses. Follow the show on Twitter @CPG Podcast.